So, in addition to being the premiere for your movie, I feel like this is kind of a red carpet premiere for Bitcoin. On the way in, I think I saw half of the people who were both in this movie and have made Bitcoin what it is today. So this is quite an event. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is also kind of a premiere for Charlie. This is the first time I've seen you out of the house, and it's obviously amazing to have you on stage to talk with us about this film and everything that's been going on. And that, I think, feeds into the first question. You know, this is a film festival. This is just thinking about this film and this topic. This is something that has evolved so quickly. I mean, if you think back to a year ago today and where we were, which you just took us on that journey, things are happening so quickly. How did you decide when this film was done?
That's a really tough question. I mean, we just kept going, I guess. We had so much footage and so much stuff to work with. We just kept building the project, and we felt like, really it was about the rise of this technology. And we thought at the end of 2013, we felt like that was a good ending. It was just hitting the $1,000 mark and seeing how it evolved.
So that sun going down, you thought maybe you could end it there, or you could end it when you hit that $1,000.
Right, exactly. And then there was just so much news that happened at the beginning of the year that we kind of extended and added a little more. But we feel like it's really still about the bigger picture, and I think we're pretty happy with where it's ending now.
Bitcoin is just beginning, so finding where to end is really tough. But I mean, there's going to be so many more stories, and it's just going to continue. We're just glad we got 2013.
Mm-hmm. Charlie, you I think you indicate this in the movie, but I think it's become even more clear, perhaps since then, that you have not sort of given up on Bitcoin. You've said this isn't the end for you in Bitcoin. What is your kind of thinking about where Bitcoin's going, and what your participation might be?
I think like what Tony said in the film, that Bitcoin belongs to everyone. There's a place for Bitcoin in the heart of every person, and that someday, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, Bitcoin will be powering the underlying infrastructure of our banking system, or of the way I send money to you or to me, or from one person in China to pay for a surgery that needs to happen at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday night, or for anything. You just don't know. And I think involvement can be you sitting at your computer, or it can be you running a multi-billion-dollar company. Everyone's involved, and we see the smallest things can affect the price of Bitcoin, but really how people think and feel of Bitcoin more than the largest thing. So really, I hate to call it the people's currency because I'll be called a communist, but it is the people's currency at the end of the day.
And what are your plans there, or can you make plans at this point?
I'm just consulting and helping people. People are free to call me up and pick my brain. If I can't be using my brain, I'm more than happy to let other people use it, as I've said. And right now I'm just helping a bunch of different companies trying to do what I was trying to do and keep pushing it forward.
The person who we didn't hear from in the end was, of course, Mark Karpeles. His last move was that bow, the apology. Did you try to reach out to him afterwards? What's your take on what's happened? That's obviously the probably last really big blow to Bitcoin. Tell me, how you guys close the loop on that.
Sure.
Yeah, it was pretty hard to get in touch with him to begin with. I mean, he was very reclusive, and it's really kind of a shame. I think he was in over his head, and he needed help running Mt. Gox, and he didn't seek it out. I think he thought he could do it himself, and it just got to be too much for him. It didn't work out. So, as for where he is now, we haven't tried to reach out. I mean, it's I think he has more things to deal with right now than us asking him to follow up on our documentary and stuff.
But Mt. Gox was such an important part of the growth of Bitcoin's economy. And I think it was it's such big news that it could not be included in the whole story of that we were trying to tell.
At the end of the day, everyone's going to learn from the mistakes of Mt. Gox. Everyone's going to learn from everyone's mistakes. You're never going to get something right the first time. The key is that, fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, shame on you. You want to be able to get it right the second time. So all of his mistakes, we can be able to take and do it better. And I think a lot of companies are analyzing what he did wrong and pushing that forward to make their companies great.
You guys had as much access probably as anybody to Mark, at least outside the Bitcoin community, and you probably had as much as anybody inside the community. I mean, did either of you see anything that wasn't in the film that gives us any explanation as to what did happen there?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think he had much too much to handle on his own, and I think he needed, he needed assistance. When you see him sitting at his desk and there's the two other developers there, those were the only 3 developers at Mt. Gox, and the 2 that were not Mark were just doing front-end development. So Mark was doing everything. I mean, he programmed everything, he installed all the servers himself, and he was the CEO. And I think that's the biggest mistake that was there.
And he was the CFO also.
Right.
Every dollar that came into the company, he had to manually approve of. Every line of code, he had to manually approve of. So you'd have to call Mark's cell phone at 3 in the morning. It's like, Mark, approve the wire transfer.
And Mt. Gox trip was actually the only trip in the documentary that I wasn't there for. I actually had an appendectomy on the 3rd day of the conference, which was a week prior to the Mt. Gox trip. So unfortunately, I couldn't go, but these guys were calling me on long distance and giving me updates, and we're talking through email and just getting the scoop. So I still felt like I was a part of that shoot. But yeah, just a fun little insider story.
The other person in there who I think everybody is left wondering what happened to is Mr. Bitcoin. Where is he without Silk Road?
We don't know. I've heard rumors through a few people on our team that he fled, that he had some trouble with the government, and that's the most I'll say on that one.
Was he dealing before he used Silk Road? So instead of dealing on the streets, he was then just dealing on the internet? Is that what happened?
Right.
He said he was the...
Right.
It's crazy.
He
So
was.
instead of being on the streets and everything, all of a sudden he was just sitting in an air-conditioned room on a computer.
Right, which he doesn't get into it too much in the film, but just talking to him personally, he was saying that there was actually ironically a benefit to that because it was less dangerous. So it's that weird, okay, it's drug dealing is not good, but at the same time, it's well, he's on the streets, that's a good thing, right? And so it's definitely interesting.
He's getting booty.
I guess that is a lot of the people who have defended Silk Road have obviously said that among the options of drug markets that we could have, it is the most preferable. We don't necessarily want to have drug markets, but if we're going to have them. So you heard a lot of that afterwards. I do think that there has been this ongoing struggle within the Bitcoin community about how far to distance themselves from things like that. I've just been going over some of the old dialogues about who should be speaking to the press about Bitcoin, and is, for instance, Roger Ver representative of the ideas of enough of the Bitcoin community to put him out there, or is he going to make people afraid of Bitcoin? And I don't know. Did you guys think about that question of who is the voice of Bitcoin? You obviously put a lot of voices out there.
And exactly, that was the model. We wanted to present enough opinions that it's up to the audience to really form their own opinion just by hearing a lot of different input from different people in different worlds with different perspectives.
I think we wanted to stress too that Bitcoin is a protocol. It's a piece of software, and it's public domain. So anything that you tie to it, any externalities, don't actually have anything to do with. It's just a computer program, and people are using it a lot of different ways. And that's what we tried to show, that there's a lot of different ways that people are using it. So to tie it to just one particular use case is a little bit short-sighted, I think.
The other, I think the other talk of the Bitcoin world in the last month or two, perhaps since you guys closed this, is that the price has kind of been stuck around $400, $500. And I think there are these questions about confidence. I mean, right, you guys all said this in the movie, money at the core is about trust, is about confidence. And I think there is a question out there as to whether this community, this protocol and the community around it can withstand another, ongoing blows to confidence, because there have been, announcements of hacks and thefts even since Mt. Gox went down. And I wonder if you think there is a point at which, that confidence really could be hurt enough that, Bitcoin at least could not recover, or this idea could not recover. How do you think about that?
I was just going to say it's still so early, and I think that a lot of these companies and a lot of these startups helped pave the way and kind of smoothing out some of the bumps. And we're seeing now it shift into more established financial companies and more into the world of finance. So I think it's only going to get better as things move forward. And I don't want to elaborate on that.
Yeah, I think a lot of those uncertainties are actually opportunities for a lot of startups and businesses. We mentioned BitPay in the film, but they take all the volatility risk out of the picture for merchants. So if it goes up or down in swings, it doesn't matter so much if you're a merchant. You're just accepting Bitcoin payments. And on the other end, as a speculative investment, there's a lot of traders and day traders that are interested. I mean, me personally, for a long-term investment, I go what some others have said is, the most you can lose is what you put into it. The most you can gain is, who knows. So, I mean, from that standpoint, I think a lot of people are attracted to that, and especially now looking at the history and seeing the fluctuations, but an overall trend of growth. And another investor said it pretty well. You have the largest target market in the entire world for this technology. I mean, it's the entire population of the planet. So, as a technology, if that pans out, sky's the limit.
Is there, though, an issue, I mean, and Charlie, I'm interested in your sense of the importance of confidence in this, and the importance that confidence has played in driving the price up, and how fragile that might be.
There is an overall need for confidence in the technology itself. But besides for a few brief moments, for example, the hard fork that has happened, almost happened, there hasn't been any lapse in the core technology of Bitcoin. So as a technology, Bitcoin, like email, is a protocol, like you were saying before, and there hasn't been much of a trust issue or confidence issue in that. But companies where you're trusting to store your Bitcoins have failed. And many people, including myself, Dan and Nick, have lost money in those companies over the years. And when you do, it's like you're not going to want to really trade anymore for a little bit of time, and the price is going to drop. People are going to sell their Bitcoins just because you lose that trust of these companies. But the underlying protocol itself, if anything, these type of issues strengthen the core protocol, because at the end of the day, if there's a news article that comes out and 10,000 people read the news article and 9,999 people say this is stupid, this is bullshit, but as long as one person says this is something great, we succeeded. That's what's important.
I think that confidence is evident with, you look at the earliest adopters of Bitcoin, people who are all in, per se. And it's a lot of cryptographers, a lot of mathematicians and computer scientists who have an advantage of seeing how trustworthy the technology actually is. The layers of cryptography that Satoshi designed Bitcoin with are incredibly robust. I mean, much, much stronger than most security mechanisms used on pretty much any website out there. So they kind of have had an early inside advantage to see and to trust it. And I think that now it's for most people over time, I think trust will build as long as we don't have any massive failures in the protocol itself. There's a funny meme that people send around sometimes that says Bitcoin user unaffected, and it shows some kind of funny guy. I have this other one in my own head that I always think of whenever I read some news article, sensational or whatever. I think in my head, Bitcoin protocol unaffected. And with that filter, most news articles, they don't really shape me very much. It's my confidence.
Except the ones I wrote.
If everyone was using Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Excel is owned by Microsoft. It is completely proprietary. It is closed source. Only Microsoft employees and developers can read the code, develop the code, and edit the code. Now, if there was a big hack and all of our data was released to the world, no one would want to use Microsoft anymore. And like you said, the confidence would be down the drain. Bitcoin is open source. Anyone right now on their cell phone can pull up and read every single line of code for Bitcoin, every single period, every single indentation, every single semicolon and colon, letter, word, everything. And anyone can be involved in the updating and pushing and the committing and the growing of the code base. So you're seeing a $6-7 billion market cap right now. That is, hackers are salivating at that, and they're trying every day to hack into this, and they can't. Why? Because it is open source. Eric Raymond once wrote a famous essay called The Cathedral and the Bazaar, and he explains the two major differences between software. One is the cathedral that he bases on religion, where all the information comes from the top down. And that's not the right way to do things. And then when Mark Andreessen of Netscape was the first one to open source the Netscape browser, he saw there was a business reason in actually open sourcing all of your code and letting everyone read it, because now you have this bizarre shook type of open air market, prices, everyone going all over the place, where everyone can be involved in the growth of it together. And that's what Bitcoin is.
One of the interesting developments recently is that the sale, or rather the purchases of Bitcoins increasingly have been done by some of the same Wall Street firms or Wall Street characters who obviously this system was initially imagined as sort of a revolution against. So you're seeing, you're seeing New York regulators talking to banks about licensing them to become, Bitcoin money transmitters, Bitcoin, essentially Bitcoin banks. And I guess the question is, if banks get involved and they already are, there are already significant holdings of Bitcoins there. Does that have the potential to taint this, to compromise things, to compromise any of those initial ideals that we could get around that sort of financial system as we have it now?
I was going to say briefly on that topic that I think it's a good thing. I think in order for us to see Bitcoin continue to grow here, especially in the U.S., we need more regulation, and we want to see, new companies that are compliant, working with regulators and working with in the world of finance to really grow Bitcoin and get it so that people can understand it and use it in the mainstream.
Yeah, and I think one of the big catalysts we didn't mention is that it was really hard for people to get Bitcoins, and people used to ask me, how do I get Bitcoins, and then I'd say, do this, and all of a sudden when Coinbase popped up, and people are familiar with PayPal, and I could tell them, just go to Coinbase now. And it made it a lot easier. Now what they give up is now they're involved with trusting a third party, and so we kind of get back one step back, but at the same time, it's the answer also to some of the concerns that the regulators have of consumer protections, of somebody hacked your computer, installed your Bitcoins, or you accidentally mistyped an address and deleted your Bitcoins. People are much more comfortable with an interface like that, and again, there's so many more opportunities like that. I think a lot of businesses and a lot of software developers are starting to embrace those opportunities.
A lot of people aren't really ready to take control of their money just yet. So there's kind of like that middleman of perfect companies like Coinbase that are doing that. And now even further, many people want to be able to log into Scottrade or E-Trade and buy Bitcoin. Now soon they'll be able to. There are two electronically traded funds currently being worked on, one by Second Market and one by Winklevels Capital, that allow people to be able to log into Scottrade, E-Trade, all these different merit trade companies, or their Roth IRA and 401ks and invest in Bitcoin. And that will be such a super step forward in terms of this cryptocurrency.
See, we're running out of time, but I wanted to ask you, you guys have had so much great material in this film. I imagine some really great stuff must have ended up on the cutting room floor. Can you tell me one or two of those things that we didn't get to see that you guys did witness?
Sure. There's a really cool little interview with Xiaotong that we have that we want to hopefully get out there as additional content down the road.
And he's the guy who ran Bitcoin.
Yeah, was one of the.
I thought you meant the singer.
What's that?
I thought you meant the singer.
No.
No, that was Xiaotong with.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was one of the first exchanges in Bitcoin, really old school exchange, and they got hacked I think 3 times, and a lot of people blamed him for maybe insider.
Yeah, but there's a lot of drama and a lot of stories out there of what the real story was, and that's kind of always the case in a lot of cases. But Yeah, we had an interview with him. That was pretty interesting.
And we have some fun footage of Satoshi Square
I was
here in
gonna
New
say,
York.
that was a lot of
It was a
fun.
really fun day with Fred Wilson coming down and purchasing some Bitcoins and interacting with a lot of the
I
Bitcoiners.
sold Fred Bitcoin for like $10, and I don't have that $10 bill, and everyone's like, you should frame that. I'm like, well, I have a $10 bill in my pocket, no one's gonna know the difference. And one of these guys would like call me, you know, we need to come down, a quick re-interview, we lost some footage, or we need to re-interview about this or that, we'll be there soon. I'm like, oh, Pittsburgh, guys, they'll be here in like 45 minutes. It's like,
That was an ongoing joke. He kept saying, I'm like, Charlie, Pittsburgh's six hours away.
it's down the block, next to Philadelphia.
As a Pittsburgher, I take offense at that. We're 3 against 1 here. I guess, Charlie, I want to ask you the same question. You have lived Bitcoin from the inside from very early on. Can you tell us a moment that you know didn't get into this film, but that you know stays with you from your Bitcoin life?
I think that there were so many times when we had to turn the camera down where it was just a bunch of guys and girls hanging out, you know, just being friends. The best part of Bitcoin at the end of the day is the friendships. You know, my best friend is a guy in Germany right now, and you just meet all these different types of people, and Bitcoin takes down borders. And I've every year I write this like a holiday message that I put out to Bitcoin magazine, and 2 years ago I wrote, what an honor it is to be a part of a community that doesn't discriminate, doesn't hate, doesn't care if you're short or tall, because I'm short, doesn't care you know what religion you are, the color of your skin, your sexual preference, nothing. The community, all judgments are dropped. We all care for a common good of making the world a better place through Bitcoin. And as technology purists, it's such a wonderful thing to be part of such a community of people and friendships that really foster, and relationships and marriages and Bitcoin babies that we'll see soon. So it's just like, you don't know.
There's no doubt, even on the film, that was actually one of the challenges was, you know, we wanted to keep a little distance from the characters we were filming because we wanted to make sure the content stayed real and everything was real. And toward the end of the filming, it got harder and harder because I became friends with a lot of the characters in the film. So it became more difficult to make sure that we separated, you know, work from play, so to speak.
So Bitcoin sucked even you in?
Yeah, absolutely. That's, you know, even after this film, I mean, Bitcoin's part of my life now.
Like we had a meetup at the Instant like 2 years ago, and my friends were like, we had a keg because you have to have alcohol at a Bitcoin meetup at our office, and we were having a keg, and my friends were drinking with this guy, and no one had ever saw him before, and I invited my friends to come to the meetup, and they're like, who's this guy? I was like, oh, he's a reporter for CNN. It's like, we're just sharing a keg with a guy from CNN at the other. You never know. It's just, that's what it is. It's just everyone's involved.
I had my first purchase that I ever made with Bitcoin was
Do you want to say it out loud?
some mining equipment, and I bought it from somebody who was in China in Beijing, and I sent him Bitcoins, and a week later I had the hardware, and I thought this is awesome. I sent him the money directly, and he sent me the computer parts, and I didn't have to go through any red tape. I didn't have to pay all these extra fees and everything, and it was just somebody who I trusted them based on their reputation online, and we had a great transaction. And for me, that was kind of one of my eureka moments. I said, when else have we been able to send somebody, $2,500 who is in China directly to them, and they have it instantaneously? So that really opened my eyes to the global potential that's here.
You mentioned in the film that you essentially gave up on mining. Obviously, mining has become a sort of industrial endeavor now. These server farms where it's being done. So what's your continuing life in Bitcoin? I asked Charlie, what are you doing?
I'm still working on a lot of software projects that are related to Bitcoin and some of the other cryptocurrencies. I'm really interested in a lot of the 2.0 cryptocurrencies, NXT, Ethereum. There's a whole bunch of projects out there that are trying to use blockchain technology to do different things. I think a decentralized Twitter where you don't have servers or email addresses and it can't be censored or things like that. So there's all kinds of different opportunities that are out there. And there's just such a great growth and interest from software developers. If you look on GitHub, where a lot of software developers work on open source projects, the number of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency related projects is just going through the roof. So
Do we have a copy of the Rise, Rise, and Rise with Bitcoin, the next one?
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen. Crazy enough ride as is.
Thank you guys very much, and thank you everyone.